Hi. Hello. What am I doing? This video has been a very long time coming. If you've been keeping up with the series, then you know that I've taken a few months break off from making videos, but I am hoping that this will be my segue into getting right back at it. The world is really weird right now, guys, and I am rising to meet the weirdness threshold. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's been a very long time since I've posted any video, let alone a Harry Potter video, so it seems like it's just about time. I'm very glad that the longest book is now done because I did find it very, very hard to get through, and I've got lots of thoughts on it. In this video, I will be telling you my thoughts on Order of the Phoenix. I am someone who has watched the movies before, but this is my first time reading the books. As well, I'll be showing you guys a little bit of the making process of this Ravenclaw cowl, which I knit for a friend of mine who is also a Ravenclaw like myself. So if you're interested in stuff like that, definitely stick around. I do plan on putting a little bit more of my knitting and crafting stuff into videos in the future. I have tons of ideas to do little bookish knitting crafts and things. So if you're interested in that, hit the like button and tell me in the comments below what kinds of little knitted crafts and things you might want to see. Now, because Order of the Phoenix was so hard for me to get through, it was such a long book to me. Actually, it's the longest book I've ever read. Because I was finding it so hard to get through the book just by reading it, I did about halfway through the book decide that I was going to switch to audiobook. So I went about 6 months without reading Harry Potter. Like, I started reading it, got about halfway through, and then I was just not interested. I was distracted. There's a lot going on in the world. I was anxious, and I found it really hard to focus on reading, and I did hardly any reading in that time. So in December, I decided to get the audiobook for Order of the Phoenix and basically just trudge through it. And I'm so glad that I did, because it made the experience a lot more enjoyable for me. Also, because I get anxious, I like to do things like knitting, so that I've got something to do with my hands while I'm listening to the audiobook, and it just makes it overall a better experience for me. It also makes it nice and productive because I'm hoping to open up an Etsy shop pretty soon with knitted items, so I'll update you guys on that whenever I figure that whole thing out. It should be soon. But yeah, the audiobook just seemed to be a really good route for me to go down, and I think I'm going to stick with it in the future. Now that I've rambled on for about 3 minutes, let's get into my thoughts and the vlogging experience of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Good morning. Do you ever have one of those days where you feel like there's something really pressing that you should be doing, but you don't know what it is? 'Cause same. I just got through the part where Harry did his trial and he got cleared for all his charges. Spoiler alert. And, I mean, I guess that was a little bit interesting, but I'm finding the start of Order of the Phoenix a little bit boring, and I don't know if it's just because I've watched the movies before, and so far the beginning of the book is fairly similar to the movies, so maybe it's just that. Like, maybe it's just that there's not really that much extra or different going on. But yeah, I'm just kind of meh. Alright, so in the beginning I wasn't super keen on how Order of the Phoenix was starting. I know that in previous videos I said that I really liked how the beginning of these books are kind of predictable and like follow the same format of like Harry is at the Dursleys' house and blah blah blah. I found that went on a little bit too long in this book, and I found that this book probably has had a little bit too much build-up so far, up until the point where we actually get some interesting content. I think things start to take a turn for the interesting in and around the time where we meet the Order. I still don't 100% love that part of the book. I do feel like it was a little bit drawn out still, but I do understand its utility in that we need to learn about the Order and have a bunch of questions answered before it makes sense to actually go on to Hogwarts for Harry's 5th year. As far as characters that have been introduced, Umbridge and Luna have been introduced. Those are kind of the two big ones that I think are different from previous books. Love Luna. She is just a breath of fresh air. She seems a little bit more... So I've watched only the movies before. I've never read the books. This is my first time reading the books. And she seems in the books a little bit more... I don't know, like a little bit less lofty and a little bit more opinionated than she came off in the movies. Like in the movies, she is just like lofty in her own world, very like sweet and kind of not really in the current moment. But in the books, she feels like that some of the time, and then like more pointed and more like on beat and more with it than she did in the movies. So I don't know if that's something that I necessarily like would be upset with having, if I had read this book and then watched the movie. I don't know that I would be like, oh, that's not what Luna's supposed to be like. I think the most endearing parts of Luna are kind of the fact that she is kind of like in her own world all the time. So if I had read this and then watched the movies, I don't think that I would be upset that her character seems a little bit different. But that being said, I've only really gotten a simple introduction to her at this point, so I don't really know if, you know, maybe she'll just be more like flighty and off in her own world later on in this book, and then, you know, she'll be more accurate to movie Luna. As far as Umbridge goes, wow, I think they were spot on with Umbridge in the movies so far anyways. Umbridge is a terrible character, love to hate her. I think that they casted the role of Umbridge in the movies really, really well based on the descriptions and things that I'm getting from this book. What a terrible character. I love to hate her. I think that Umbridge is just a mess and evil and upsetting, and I really do like that at one point in this book they talk about like not all bad people are Death Eaters, like, because I think what it is like Harry is trying to say like, oh, maybe Umbridge is a Death Eater because, spoiler alert, he touches her hand or something and his scar starts to hurt, so he's like, she must be in line with Voldemort. I do like that they kind of make that distinction, because I think that's kind of like a good lesson to keep in mind in life, that like not all bad people are immediately in this like one group of bad people. Like there are different kinds of bad in the world. I don't know where I'm going with this. I've come to enjoy it more. I would say the first 100 pages I wasn't super keen on, but these next like 180 pages that I've read have been better, and I think that it will continue to get better. I don't know that this will be like my favorite of the Harry Potter books. I've heard this one thrown around as a lot of people's favorites before, but for me, I think this one so far is landing like higher than Goblet of Fire, but definitely lower than Azkaban. I really liked Azkaban. Also, fun fact, once I finish reading this will be the longest book I've ever read in my life, which is weird. But yeah, apparently the longest book, according to Goodreads, that I've ever read was Goblet of Fire. So anyways, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. I am enjoying it. Maybe not as much as I've enjoyed some of the other books, but more than I've enjoyed some of the other books. Yeah. Okay, I will update you guys the next time I get a considerable chunk of this book done. Hey guys, it is December 31st, 2020. It's been a long time since I've filmed anything, so I might be a bit rusty, but I wanted to film an update on Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. I am about halfway through. I think I'm on like page 352 out of 800, and I was having a really hard time with reading this book. This partially might be because it's a really long book, and I typically don't like really long books. I find them tedious a lot of the time, and I definitely was not enjoying this book in the very beginning because of that, because I just had so much of it to read. And it's been about 6 months since I've seriously picked up the book to try and read it, and that's really frustrating to me. So what I've decided to do is I'm actually going to pick up the audiobook for Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, and I'm going to finish the second half of the book on audiobook. Now, the reason why I decided to do this is I feel I need a way to get through this book faster. And the other reason is I really have gotten into needlecraft and knitting and doing projects with my hands these days. I find that that really helps to calm my anxiety. So I've been doing a lot of that in the last few months, and I thought that if I did an audiobook, then I could not only listen to the book and enjoy that hobby, but I could also enjoy my hands-on knitting projects and craft projects. Now, of course, because I'm going to be doing some knitting while I'm doing my reading, I thought it would be fun to do and share a Harry Potter related craft with you guys while I get through Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. So, yesterday I started knitting this little Ravenclaw cowl. It's just the end of it. It's going to be about 30 inches long and then wrap around the neck. And this is going to be gifted to my friend Sarah, who you guys may or may not have seen on this channel before. And basically her and I are both Ravenclaws, so I thought it would be kind of cute if we had little Ravenclaw cowls. So without further ado, I'm going to get to working on my little Ravenclaw cowl, and I will give you some updates on how I feel about Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Okay, so time for a little Harry Potter update. Basically, it's been 3 days since I started listening to Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix on audiobook, and oh my gosh, is it ever helping with my enjoyment of the experience. I think that sitting down and reading a book this big was just getting a little bit intimidating to me, especially with all of the stress going on in the world right now. So switching to the audiobook and being able to knit and do stuff with my hands while I'm listening to the book has really, really helped with my enjoyment of the book. So in the last couple of days, I have read almost 200 pages via audiobook, and I really don't have all that much left. I mean, there is still a healthy chunk there, but I'm on page 518 of 800. So we're under 300 pages to go, and that makes me very happy. The end is in sight. So I think that I should be able to finish this off in the next week or so. So far, I am pretty well enjoying it. I think I started to have a lot of negative feelings when I was reading the book like 6 months ago, when I was physically reading the book, because I was just getting bored and it was meandering. I do still find this book more, I don't want to say random, but like it goes off on tangents more than the previous books, I think. Like this book being this large, I feel like it didn't need to be this big. It's fun and it's fine and it's cool to get all this extra information about the wizarding world, but it just doesn't seem integral to the story, and I think that's what's bothering me a little bit, is that it feels a little bit fuzzy in terms of staying on topic, staying on plot, but I do kind of wish that things were a little bit more streamlined and a little bit more on topic. I don't know. I don't think this is going to be one of my favorites, but I don't think it's quite so unenjoyable that it will keep me from reading books 6 and 7. So hopefully this series still has a future. Also, before I forget, knitting update. I finished knitting it, like the whole thing, in a few days. Give me a sec while I put this on so that I don't destroy your auditory experience. This is meant to be a cowl, not a full-on scarf, so it's meant to just kind of wrap around your neck like that. And then there's a couple of buttonholes here, which I will attach buttons here and up here. And then if you just kind of like snug, make it a little more snug like that. So there'll be buttons here, and that's the Ravenclaw wrap cowl, basically, that I've decided to create. So yeah, I hope you guys like it. Kind of just finished this really quickly and didn't film any of it. So yeah. Anywho, I'm gonna go and find something else to knit. Well, it only took 7 months, but I'm done Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. This one did something that I think the last one did as well that I was not very happy about, and that was kind of having that like end, at the end of the books there's always this big like wrap-up chapter where Harry is talking to somebody and just gets all the answers to all of the questions that we still have yet to answer. I think my final thoughts on this one are honestly just like, it wasn't one of my favorites. If I had to give this book a score out of 5, I would probably give it 3.5, which I think is actually the lowest I've given any of the Harry Potter books. I've got some final thoughts written down here. I've got some notes. Let's just jump into it. Before I do get too far into it, possible spoiler alert. If I haven't said that already in this video, possible spoiler alert. So, first thing, I've said it so many times in this video, the book was entirely too long for my liking. I am not a long book kind of person. I found that it was just unnecessarily long. There was a lot more information than there needed to be, really, and it was just very frustrating and meandering, and it was not my favorite. I did find, upon reflection, that the characters in the book read younger than I would expect them to read. So the characters are around 15 years old in this book, and to me they don't really feel like they've grown up much since like the second or third book, which is interesting because going from like what, 12, maybe 13 to 15, there is a lot of growing up that tends to happen there. I don't know if I'm a little bit skewed on this, like, because if I think about teenagers nowadays, I feel like 15-year-olds nowadays are attempting to be more mature and like appear more grown up at 15 than maybe 15-year-olds did 20 years ago or so, or whenever this book was supposed to be set. So it could be kind of a product of the time. Maybe that's why it feels a little bit off, but yeah, it just feels a little bit strange, like these kids are still kids and not teenagers. So yeah, that was something that I really realized after I read the book or listened to the book and was like, maybe this is just a personal thing, but by the 5th book, maybe it had something to do with how long the book was. I feel like the magical, whimsical feelings of the wizarding world have worn off for me. I will say that one notable exception to this would be pretty much anything the Weasleys do. They are like the pinnacle of wizarding whimsy. So I would say that like pretty much any scene with like Fred and George or Molly and Arthur or, you know, even Ron, I would say those were pretty good as far as like magic and whimsy goes. But yeah, the 5th book as a whole just didn't feel as magical and fun as the others. And maybe that's because it's becoming a more grown-up story, but I don't know, I thought that was a weird kind of like juxtaposition, I guess, between like the characters that feel really young and then the story is getting older, which is good, but it almost feels like the characters are trailing behind. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Okay, Sirius dies. Bellatrix kills Sirius. Hardly even noticed it in the book. I only really noticed it when Harry was grieving, and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that is kind of sad. But it didn't affect me when I was reading the book. Maybe it's because I knew he was going to die, right? Maybe the emotions that I feel like I should have felt would have been there if this was my first time reading the book or knowing the story. But I think that even if I go back and watch the movie, which I'm going to do a video very soon about the 4th and 5th movies. Even if I go back and watch the movie, I care every time I watch that movie and I see Sirius die. But the book, it was just like, oh, okay, that happened. I feel like Sirius and Harry's relationship is not that well developed in the books. Feel free to disagree with me and hate me in the comments below, that's totally fine. But I feel like it was better developed on screen than it was in the book. What I will say is that the end of this book definitely had me interested in reading the next few books, but not necessarily for the reason that previous books made me want to read the next book. So if anything, I'm just kind of interested with the writing style and how the story is portrayed through that. And I want to see if the writing style continuously does get a little bit more mature and older as the students get more mature and older. Again, because I feel like the characters came off as a little bit young in this book for what's going on around them. I'm wondering if in the 6th and 7th books, the characters will kind of like match the seriousness of the story a little bit more. I don't know. I'm hoping that that happens because I did find it a little bit strange in this book. Maybe this book is kind of like the Growing Pains type book, you know, like story's getting more serious and the author needs to kind of learn how to deal with the more serious stuff with her characters, or maybe the characters themselves are acting more immature because they themselves haven't realized kind of the gravity of the situation yet. I don't know. I do want to read the next books. I'm going to read the next books. Eventually I'm going to have videos for those next books. They'll probably be done on audiobook as well. So that's pretty much it. Those are my thoughts on Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. I promise that the next videos will be out sooner than 7 months from now. I'm a little bit ashamed about that. That's actually like, that took forever. Anyways, guys, that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do not hesitate to like and subscribe for future videos. You can find links to my Instagram down below. I've actually got 2 now. I've got one for Brushes and Books, and I've got one for my new knitwear shop that I'm going to be opening on Etsy. You can also find me on Ravelry if you're into things like knitting and crochet. And you can find me on Goodreads as always. Always willing to make new friends on Goodreads. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.